Natasha couldn't avoid a conversation with Dimka, but she didn't expect it to happen so soon. He was sitting in the kitchen with her parents, drinking tea and presenting them with gifts as usual. Her mother received something for the kitchen, as Dimka knew her weakness, while her father received a fishing knick-knack. Dimka sat with a serious expression, smelling of wine again. Natasha could hear fragments of their conversation through the tightly closed door. She pretended to be asleep when she heard footsteps outside her room. She waited until she was certain that her husband had left before finally getting out of bed, stretching sweetly. As the conversation with her mother continued, she smiled slightly and listened to her mother's claims that Dimka should have been forgiven long ago. He stumbled once. It could happen to anyone. Maybe it's not even true. People can say anything out of jealousy. I think it's time to tell him. He deserves to know. Does he know about the baby? Her mother pressed. No, Natasha answered briefly, trying to avoid her mother's exhortations. She couldn't help but believe her best friend. She had seen Dimka in the car with an overpainted girl more than once, and she knew about his constant delays at work on various pretexts. She wasn't a fool and knew what was going on. If she had had any doubts before, she never would have agreed to have a baby. And now she was destined to be a single mother, as she had no intention of living with this bastard in the same apartment, let alone in the same family. As Natasha entered the kitchen to pour herself some tea, her mother's attack continued. Do you want me to talk to him myself? I don't believe that such a serious person is capable of meanness. Mother, Natasha could only manage to say as she tried to leave the room with her glass of tea. Natasha had searched for love for a long time before finding it with Dmitry. At first sight, she fell for his reliable and handsome appearance. Their happiness seemed to have no end. She had only seen relationships like theirs in movies and read about them in romance novels. Their hearts beat as one in their cozy home, surrounded by cloudless happiness. Dimka was the meaning of her life, and she knew he loved her just as much because she felt wanted. Over their 5 years of living together, they had learned to read each other's minds, becoming almost inseparable. But as she reminisced, a hint of sadness crept in. After leaving her husband, an unpleasant feeling lingered within her, but she remained determined not to face him again. Following dinner, Marina entered her daughter's room to discuss her husband once more. As she looked at her daughter, she felt a sudden fear. Natasha, why don't you have any color on your face? Are you sick? Marina touched her daughter's hands and forehead. Oh, you're burning up. Ambulance, and shouted to her husband to call an ambulance and call Dima. I don't want Dimka, her daughter muttered weakly. Dmitry hurried to the ward as soon as the doctor arrived and diagnosed Natasha with a viral infection that would not have harmed the fetus. Fetus? What fetus? He asked bewilderedly. Didn't you know your wife was pregnant? You should have taken better care of her, the ambulance doctor replied. Dima stayed by Natasha's side almost constantly for 3 days, only leaving briefly to attend to work matters. On the 4th day, when his wife was feeling better, they had a conversation that Natasha had been avoiding. You're mine, my beautiful and precious fool. There's no one else for me. And that Urka of yours won't leave me alone. I had to tell her to go away yesterday. Don't trust her. She'll say anything to break us up. She's a silly girl, he said, tenderly kissing her on the lips. I only love you. That same day, he took her to their house in the suburbs. Until that moment, Natasha felt like their family life was spiraling into an abyss. But as she felt the fruit of their great love growing inside her, she suddenly realized how happy she was. She knew that she and Dmitry had their whole lives ahead of them, and she was determined to give their relationship every chance to flourish, without any clouds of doubt or suspicion. She decided to forget about Urka and remembered her mother's words, "You'll find out what women are capable of doing for the one they love," and she really understood. She remembered how her friend had tried to take Dima away from her. Every time she met him, she made eyes at him. He was the reason they had their first fight. But then everything was forgotten, but as it turned out, only for Natasha. Ira continues to make a mess of her and her husband's relationship. That's what jealousy does. Subscribe to our channel not to miss new interesting life stories. Give us your likes, write your opinion in the comments.